hey everyone, it's so nice for all of us here to be convened in the same Zoom room. We are the team members of Girl Power Talkways in the Philippines, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast with the title From Maria Clara to Gabriela. So I'm Cheska. I am currently based in Quezon City.
And I'm Rafi, also based in Quezon City.
And I'm Jessie. I'm currently hailing from Manila.
And my name's Courtney. I'm currently residing in Makati.
My name's Denise, and I'm from Alabang.
Hello, I'm Anja. I'm from the southern Philippines in Butuan City.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm from Cavite.
Awesome. Hi, guys. So I have a question for you, and that is who was your role model when you were growing up?
Well, growing up, I always looked up to my aunt. She considers herself a rebel chemist because she graduated with a chemistry degree that she never wanted, and then later on pursued her passion for computer science. And I remember during family gatherings or reunions, she would bring like thick books of chemistry that she would read casually. So that's something that I remember from her and admire because like she's very smart and intelligent.
That's kind of a coincidence because I also have a cousin who works in the chemistry department, but she's a chemical engineer. But and along with her sister, who is a physics graduate, I also admire them because of how intelligent they are, and they were my inspiration growing up. And that's why I lean into science more because I had these women in STEM role models that I looked up to, and personality wise they're so altruistic, and I think that's the reason why I love volunteering in causes about education and children's rights, because that was what they did when they had free time, and I loved it about them.
Okay, so from science, I'm also a science fan, guys. But like my role model would be my grandmother, just because she was a provincial woman and all the way from the province. She made her way to working at the custom for the government, and as somebody who is from a low class family to self-made woman who made fortunes working for something really big is something that you do not see every day. So yeah.
Yeah, didn't you mention that she party?
Yes, she parties at the age of 70. How cool is that? Nobody does that anymore.
Maybe we should like invite her to party with us next time. And take her to Pablo or to BGC.
Definitely someday.
Yeah, but anyway, the reason why I asked. Anyone else would like to share? Okay, so the reason why I asked who was your guys' role model, and I know that I did mention earlier that the topic of our podcast is from Maria Clara to Gabriela, and actually we will be getting to that now. And the reason for that is because well, at least for a lot of Filipino women, we also had like these types of role models or like people that we had to look up to and whose ideals we had to conform to and follow. So maybe we could already begin our discussion by talking about who is this Maria Clara that we have been hinting at and have been discussing. So maybe to begin, did we all read Noli Me Tangere or Gabriel? Or I'm sorry, Noli Me Tangere in high school?
For legal
Yeah.
purposes, yes.
Kind of like a
But did we
requirement.
all
finish it?
Yeah.
We all finish it.
Right?
We don't.
I couldn't remember.
Finished it in theory.
In my head, I did.
In my imagination, I did too. But seriously, like who here like seriously read that?
Me read it. In
Yeah, I
class.
think
all
I
of
read
us.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
all of
class?
us
I
My,
did.
my book was
Buzz.
like this thick.
Mm.
Yeah,
Or
I
like
only.
the Spark Note version of it.
Yeah,
We're gonna see on the internet.
that's
what I
read.
Oh,
Oh,
Kate has a
see?
book.
Yeah.
You have it.
Way to go,
Fair.
Kate.
Wow.
Feels
You
like a
actually
textbook and
opened that book?
everything.
You
I
opened that.
opened it. I had to.
Wow.
But
Did you read it or did you just open it?
Oh, I read it. But it's just a summarized version of it.
let's quiz Kate
Smart.
on her knowledge. But anyways, like the reason why I asked specifically about that book is actually because Maria Clara was a character in the novel Noli Me Tangere, which was written by one of our national heroes in the Philippines, Jose Rizal. So so of course, like since we were already like getting excited talking about this, it is a requirement for all Filipino high school students to read two novels. It's in the law. first is Nolly Matangere, and afterwards it's sequel El Filibusterismo. So now I have to ask you guys, what do you remember specifically about Maria Clara and her character?
From what I remember, Maria Clara is a fictional character made by Jose Rizal to, represent the ideal Filipino woman at the time, which carried on, to this century. And so, yeah.
And from what I remember, Maria Clara's character was like she's like the female lead. So for example, in like your K dramas, you have this main lead couple. She's the woman of the lead couple, and her partner would be Crisostomo Ibarra.
For me, from what I remember, is that Maria Clara was the submissive character who always followed her father's advices and the societal norms, and she was this prim and proper girl from No Limit Tangere that everyone admires.
Yeah.
So for me, Maria Clara was the perfect representation of the Filipino idioms that di makabasag pinggan, which is in translation is can't break a plate, because that means that she's a shy and delicate woman. So everyone heard that idioms when they were growing up.
Yeah, she's so gentle that she can't break a plate, kind of thing.
That could it be me? I've broken so many plates.
Same.
Wait, yeah, I think like from what you guys were discussing, there's basically this commonality in the idea that Maria Clara, for the longest time, has represented like the standard of the Filipino woman being demure, being pure, being submissive, and being obedient. Because that really was how her character was, right? Like, do you guys remember like specifically what happened in the book?
Oh,
I think it was which one?
I don't think I remembered specifics. I only read the summaries.
Yeah, there. I know there were like a couple, like how she was introduced, and the book was like it was a lot about her beauty and
Yeah, a lot about her
Um,
features.
They focus on her. They focus on
Yeah.
her external.
yeah.
Yeah, they
And
even
then
mentioned of her being a mestiza. A mestiza is like how do you describe it?
Eurocentric.
Yeah.
you're
I
right.
think I think in like the context of what a mestizo was during like Rizal's time, it was like a woman who was like half Spanish or something like that. Yeah, but basically someone who did have like Eurocentric features, so like light skin, a tall nose bridge, and a bunch of other stuff that I forgot about. But like that pretty much was it and the gist of it. And like as Kurti mentioned earlier, a lot of the focus of Maria Clara, if not on her physical appearance, was also about her personality of being like submissive, being like obedient to whatever it is that her dad or like the people around her wanted her to do. And I think like it's because of that type of character that like it led to like how she ended up in the book. So do we remember what happened to her in the end?
Come on, guys,
Because,
history 101.
Remember, Kate
We're like-
Rivas?
Our
Because-
brain.
She got into conventry because that was after the death of Crisostomo Ibarra. Actually, it wasn't. He
Spoiler.
didn't die. Spoiler. Didn't die. It was just kind of a scheme that happened. Okay, blah blah blah. Skip on it. And he went. Oh no, Maria Clara mentioned either this is what was that like kamatayan or conventry. Ate Chalka, help me out here.
I think it was in English. It was like nunnery or death.
Yeah, that. And she chose nunnery and to serve the Lord because she was also portrayed as a Christian woman in the novels.
Oh yeah, that was like a point that we forgot to mention.
Yeah,
Since
that
it
was-
religious.
religious, prayerful, like probably had like a rosary in her pocket, that kind of thing. Yeah. And now that Kate, like rightfully pointed that out, like it makes sense that like how people expect a lot of Filipino women to be was patterned with how Maria Clara was. And she was someone who's prayerful, like conformant to what the church wanted women to act. So if I'm like recalling correctly what happened to Maria Clara in the book, it was like she was introduced as the love of Crisostomo Ibarra, who was like the protagonist of the book, as the love of his life. And then they dated for a while, and then everything
Did they
went
actually
alright.
dated?
Yeah, they
In,
Yeah,
got
they
in,
did.
in
engaged,
they did.
right?
I mean, by our modern standards, we could call that dating. We only call it
Yeah.
courting or
Yeah,
something. And then
courting.
yeah, but like she also she kind of had a tragic demise in the end of the book because as Kate said earlier, there was the point in the book where Chrysostomo Ibarra had to like fake his death or almost died. And Maria Clara thought that he had died. And her character was reduced to like but also like I guess it's like important to mention that Maria Clara also got like violated by a priest like sexually, and it's one of those reasons like why she chose I think to go to the nunnery.
Yeah,
Actually,
being celibacy.
yeah, being celibacy. So basically, how it was like Chrysostom Ibarra died, and she was supposed to be married to another man that who she didn't want to marry. She said that she would rather choose the nunnery and live like a celibate life than to be married to someone who wasn't the love of her life. And that was kind of how her character ended.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I guess.
Sweet. That was really sad,
It's
Denise.
tragic.
What's sweet in
It's
But
there?
I
like
think
Romeo
it's
and Juliet.
yeah, but I think like
The loyalty, guys.
no, but I think like the fact that her character has been degraded into someone who's devoting themselves into their lover
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
a way
That adds to the notion.
that Filipinos used to view women.
Yeah, and
Nothing
her life
about a man.
decision. Yeah. Her life decisions was like reduced to like what happened to a man. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, but what do you guys think was the lasting effect of Maria Clara's character on people's perceptions and, of course, expectations for Filipino women?
Right. So we've established that Maria Clara is this somebody who's deemed as demure, meek, and very prim and proper. Basically, the type of girl you would take home to your mom on a Sunday wearing a white dress. Like that's basically who she was, and she would smell like sunshines and flowers. Like there would be nothing wrong with her because she's this ideal Filipino woman. But I think to be labeled as a dalagang Filipina or a young Filipino woman, you have to be in the same light as the cult image of Maria Clara. That in order to be this nice, admirable girl, you need to be somebody who's very much submissive, demure, and like what Kate said earlier, cannot break a plate. Like you'd be so gentle, you cannot break a plate. That's why I think the lasting effect of this icon is that any masculine thing that a daughter would do, it would automatically translate into homosexuality or labeled as misbehavior. Like if you see a young girl playing physical fights with boys, playing with toy cars, or taking interest in sports, it would be something that's out of character for a daughter. I think for me, my personal experience would be the exact the same. Like I never took interest in sports or anything physical during my, puberty stage because as a young girl, whenever I would play with boys and do, street plays or maybe like how do you translate it in English? Like larong kalsada. How do you
Like
translate
Rough
playing
play.
outside of the
Rough
street.
play.
Yeah.
yeah, rough play, just rough play with boys, they would always call me out. Or like they would let me play with them, but I would be just the saling pusa. Or like, how do
Just
you
like,
how do
yeah.
you translate that? I don't know. But like you're playing with them, but you're not actually playing with them because they're
Yeah.
treating you so carefully. Like
Yeah.
you
Right,
cannot be hurt or things like that.
Yeah.
That's why, growing up I decided not to take interest in sports anymore because as a younger it's been an idea that's instilled in me that you cannot do anything physical because you have to be this sort of princess. You cannot be tired. You have, to be this image of a young sweet girl. So yeah, just anything that's, masculine or something that would take too much space for a woman, it would automatically translate as misbehavior because it's not something that Maria Clara would do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this effect is deeply rooted from our childhood and upbringing. Like, Courtney's mentioned that she's been hearing these things since she was a kid. And we're always told to be like Maria Clara and like someone who would just accordingly cover herself up, talk elegantly, or attend Sunday mass regularly, and just someone who would wait for marriage. And like I feel like we're stuck inside a box that society has told us that this is what we should be like. But yeah, and I think it impacts us as we grow older because we feel very insecure and we won't be able to fully express ourselves because we're supposed to be like Maria Clara because we're women.
Yeah, and I think there's like an expression for that, right? Yung in Tagalog, it's kay babae mong tao. In English, I don't know how you say it in English.
In English, you're a woman.
Like
I
what
think
kind of
it's
woman?
like
For
a woman or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you add this.
Oh, is it like ladylike? Be ladylike.
Yes.
Yeah, be
Oh,
ladylike.
you're
Right.
so smart. Yeah, so basically that type of expression like is like said, and I think I was like told that expression like so many times as a girl when I was younger, when I was acting very unruly or just like how if you're a woman you're not supposed to like sit with your legs spread like how men
Yeah.
usually do. And I used to do that a lot. I don't know. It's comfortable that way. And then my grandmother would be like, "Oh, kababae mong tao, like don't do that." Those are like, yeah, and I think that those are like the lasting effects, so to speak, of like how Maria Clara's character has carried on and has like and what she represented and embodied has carried on with us like centuries after her character was written. And Kate also like made an excellent point about this. I think she put it in the chat like earlier, about how the expectations given to women are based on like a fictional character written by a man. And like that says a lot, I guess. Yeah. And like how people view the idea of Maria Clara today is still very much persistent. And I think it also contributes to like how a lot of like women's rights issues or like even like the behavior of women is viewed so negatively up until now. Because again, like Maria Clara, she was like embodied as someone who was demure, as someone who was obedient, as someone who was like a God fearing woman, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And like when you see a woman like right now who's like, or like a Filipina right now who's like sexually liberated, as someone who's like confident with herself, like that is, and let's admit it, like a lot of people still view that as something that is very negative. And I think it's precisely because of the standards that Maria Clara's character has set, that like contributes to those types of negative perceptions. So that being said, do you guys think that the ideal of Maria Clara is still relevant today?
I feel like not as much anymore today, especially since like Maria Clara has this like ideal of being a pure and innocent woman. Like we have to be conservative and modest, and also like I don't know, she has this like image of being like feminine, and I feel like people expect every woman to be feminine. That's why, as Courtney mentioned a while ago, anything that like goes outside a person being feminine is like already like assumed as homosexuality when it's not, when you're just trying to be yourself and trying to like do what you want to do. And also I also want to touch on what Jessica mentioned that Kate said in the chat, was like how Maria Clara is a character written by a man. And I feel like her ideals, like her qualities are like catered to what men want from us. And I feel like that's not the case anymore. I feel
It's like breaking the image, kind of.
yeah, like today I feel like women just be who they want them to be. That's why there's no such thing as like an ideal woman, like an ideal Filipino woman anymore. That's why I don't think it's that relevant today.
I'm going to add something first. You can remember the saying that mahihirapan asawa mo yan when you're a liberated woman. So
Yes.
mahihirapan asawa mo yan in English is your husband will have a hard time handling you or being married to you.
Yeah.
It's problem.
Yeah, I think the idea of Maria Clara, being strongly imprinted to us that we try our best not to break that image, So, for example, I have this habit of like sitting with my feet up, like eating with my feet up or
Me
something.
too.
And that is so
Doing that
not
right
proper.
now.
And like my mom would be, the guys would be turned off. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. And it's not the case anymore. You can't just be, sitting still and be pretty, like trying to
Yeah.
please everybody else because it's a modern day. Like, hello, we're modern women. And we don't do things just to please others anymore. We do things to please ourselves. So
And these like all of the examples you mentioned, these are such little things like putting your feet up or like those kinds of things. These are like very small things that you do not necessarily because of like what other people think, but you do it like because it's comfortable for you or
yeah,
it's something that like feels natural. And
Yeah.
like when people correct or when people like try to rectify these sorts of things as if there were something wrong with it, but it makes it seem like I
It's
guess
not
like in
good.
that sense, yeah, it's not good or like that it's wrong in the very first place when like I said, these are just small things and it's the small things that we get to see how like gender biases and all those
mm.
types of things like seep into Philippine society now. Yeah. So moving on with our
Wait, wait,
discussion.
wait, wait. I have a
Oh yeah.
question. Like, sorry, just a quick question. Did
Yeah, yeah,
any
go
of
ahead.
you want to be Maria Clara before while you were reading the book? Like, did you
Could it be
want to be
me?
like her?
I
Little
was
did you
Maria
know.
Clara in the play, okay?
Wow,
Oh
Jessie.
no!
Right.
Are you really?
Yeah, I was.
Wow. We'd like to see it
Did you
soon.
internalize Jessie playing the character?
No, because during break time, I would like roll my sleeves up, like, oh my god, it's so hot.
Oh, but how are you like selected for the play?
Because I'm small,
Ah,
right? So,
Okay.
there's
and nobody
that.
else wanted it, so I'm like, okay,
Got
no
it for the
choice.
lead role. You have to show us like the recording though.
Yes.
Yeah, we love
Later, after this, I'll show you guys a live action.
Anyone else who wants to answer Curtin's question? Anyone else?
No,
Like
nobody wanted to be.
no. Yeah.
Nobody wanted.
Nobody.
Honestly, honestly that also couldn't be me because when I go to church, I just like dissociate. I can't listen.
That is very.
And
Gladly not take the Maria
I
Clara
feel like
title.
being Maria Clara is too much work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Why does it?
It's like
But
being like the perfect.
is I mean, like, I'm not a girl, okay? But I feel like it's a lot of work to be like Maria Clara because you have to fix your hair, you have to be aware of how you act in public or even in private, and you have to be aware of what you say. And even if you are already aware of what you say, you have to say it like you're a prim and proper girl. And there's a lot of protocols to follow, a lot of skincare or something, or a lot of girly things that you have to do just to affirm what society wants you to do. And as a man, I don't have to do that at all. I just have to be myself. And if you're a girl, you're not given with so much options to express what you are because again, there's an expectation from society that you have to follow. So I feel like it's just a lot of work to be a Maria Clara.
Actually, I also have a question before we move on. Because, like, since Maria Clara is this ideal Filipino woman, is there also an ideal Filipino man? Like, is there a character that's like.
Oh, excellent
Yes,
point.
I
it's
feel like you
Angel.
just
Who
have
is
to
the
be
idea?
rich.
It's Angel.
No,
Angel affair.
no,
Not fair.
bestie. I don't swing that way.
That's an excellent question, though. Is
Yeah.
there? Got me
Thought
thinking.
provoking.
Like,
The
I don't
Lord?
think there is.
You know how in Philippine lore that
Jesus.
the females are
What?
Okay,
okay,
Anjo,
okay.
Anjo was saying something.
I was saying in Philippine folklore, there's the origin of man and woman, right? Are you familiar with the Kawayan
Kasi
story?
Ah, yeah, malakas and
malakas
maganda.
and
Yeah.
maganda.
Maganda.
Yeah.
Where the standard for women they should be beautiful, and the
Yeah.
standard for men they should be strong. And
Hunter-gatherer.
that's I feel like the standards for men is that you have to be strong, you have to provide for your family, you're not in some ways you shouldn't show emotions. That's the ideals, like you have to
Yeah.
suppress them because how are you gonna think if you let your emotions lead you? But that's I don't think that's how it works because sometimes men forget to be empathetic when they they forget to show emotions. And that's actually not really good for emotional support for men because they're not able to express themselves properly because again a fear of might of getting discriminated that they're not being a man enough. And in no way men are also in this Philippine society. Men are also in a way victims of our standards. So yeah,
Yeah.
That's
So they
true. I
yes.
mean, men can be sensitive too,
Yeah,
and
but
women
they
can be strong.
yeah.
Hi,
So
Deline. Hello.
basically yeah, so like I think the point with that is like for a lot like both men and women, we have all had like standards that we had to conform to, which is like ridiculous because I guess like we all have different and varying personalities. So why should we like box ourselves in one specific character or idea that was like written or like conceptualized centuries ago? But anyway, like okay, I guess like to transition our conversation now. Again, like the title of this podcast is From Maria Clara to Gabriela. So these are two very different women. So anyone now would care to discuss or share who Gabriela was? And by Gabriela, of course, not the protagonist and leading lady on High School Musical.
Okay, I'm going to take over for now. Gabriela Silang was our national hero during the Spaniard colonization. The story goes that Maria Josefa Gabriela Silang, with her husband during that time, Diego Silang, joined the revolution to oppose the Spaniard colonization in the 1700s. To note, this was 100 years before Jose Rizal was even born. So this was before long time that Maria Clara was written. So I consider Gabriela Silang as a hidden gem of our Philippine history. Okay. Diego Silang was betrayed by fellow locals in Ilocos Sur because they sided with the Spaniards, and he was assassinated before they even got to succeed in the revolution. So the revolution that Silang and her husband during that time joined kind of lose hope because of that assassination. And Gabriela wanted to avenge the death of her husband. So she started the Silang Revolt in Santa, Ilocos Sur, and that's why we consider her as a hero. She didn't That revolution didn't succeed. We all know we had to go through 333 years of Spaniard colonization. So that's 1700. That was just the start of it. But it was a great fight that was put up by a woman.
Bars, facts,
Yeah.
no further. Yeah, but thank you. Like we love the history lesson because I think Gabriela Salang's story was like rarely touched on our like Philippine
Yeah,
history.
that's
I think
true.
she's very
Yeah.
Often
underrated.
overlooked.
Underrated. True.
Underrated, really.
But yeah, I think like during high school, like when we were or grade school, like we were discussing like national heroes. A lot of the people um who we got to know were like men, and then Gabriela Silang was there precisely because she was a woman. But like the details of her story and what she fought for, and what she was able to achieve was like rarely discussed. Just that like she was a woman, and it's nice that like Kate had like a very good introduction on who she was, because now like when we're talking about like breaking the standard of like what a Filipino woman should be, now Gabriela Silang's name comes up because she was like a military leader. She was a revolutionary woman, and she led an army. And basically, if Maria Clara, we know, embodied like submissiveness, like we now have Gabriela Silang who embodied like strength as a woman. So do you guys who do you guys associate yourselves more with, like Maria Clara or Gabriela, or like not necessarily for each of them?
I would say Maria Clara in the house, Gabriela outside the house. So you can be both, but before I get into, too deep in details, we would like to clarify that we are not comparing these two awesome ladies. Maria Clara had her own strengths, same for Gabriela, which was, a significant icon, a female icon to Philippine history. So I think with that, I would say, regardless if you gear towards to be a Maria Clara or Gabriela more, it's what's more important is identifying yourself with somebody, or you know, just an embodiment of somebody that you feel most empowered for, most empowered about. Like, regardless if you're Maria Clara, if you like being, prim and proper, and if you like, dressing up in white dresses, and that's when you feel most comfortable in your own skin, then that shouldn't be a problem, because that's where you feel most happy. But if you're like more the Gabriella type, that's more empowered in raising her voice, amplifying her mission, and taking actions about it, then that's also admirable, because these two ladies, they might have their pros and cons. Some might, be seen generally as the weaker one, or one as the stronger one. Regardless, with that, if that's your own choice, or if it's your own will to be a Maria Clara or a Gabriela, then I think you're good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true that.
Right, right. And I don't think we can compare them or favor one over the other, because true woman empowerment is allowing each one to express themselves in the way they feel comfortable or fully identified with. And if you're someone who wants to be like Maria Clara or Gabriela, you can still be considered modern Filipino woman, because the modernity lies in being able to exhibit yourself however you want to and not allowing society to impose their expectations upon you.
Yeah.
also
Wonderful.
also like, I think, just categorizing ourselves into just between these two female icons, I don't think this is the point of what we're doing right now. Like, we're breaking boundaries, we're breaking stereotypes, we're breaking categories in general. So if you're like more of the type of Maria Clara, but you also have Gabriella tendencies, then I think that's awesome, right?
Yeah. And I think like we were talking about like role models and everything, and it's very difficult for us to just box ourselves in a certain standard of who we should be, because again, like we all have different personalities and we're dynamic as people. And if we feel like we don't have someone to look up to or the type of role model that particularly resonates with us, then we can be like our own role models and embody the type of person that we want to follow or we want to be. And I think, yeah, that's like a good point when we're talking about like the standards and so much things that has been like imposed upon us. So I suppose to wrap up this podcast, this conversation, this very fruitful and lively conversation that we've had, I want to ask you guys, or and also like of course you guys can complete this sentence by saying a Filipina or a Filipino to me is, and then black. So if I were to answer that, I would say that a Filipino to me is first and foremost a militant. And again, that is, I kind of like copy that from Lorena Barros, who was also a leader and revolutionary during the time of martial law in the 1970s. And I say it, and that in particular, that quote in particular, resonates with me because it fits my identity as an activist. And I feel like and for me, during the time of like so many social and political things that are happening in our country right now, it's good to see Filipino women standing up and speaking up about social issues. So that's why that for me like embodies like what a Filipina is. But like I'm sure all of us have like varying ideas on what a Filipina means. So do you guys also want to answer that?
A Filipina to me is now vocal. Like, we don't just sit around and like take in whatever is said to us. I mean, come on, guys, look at us talking about this real kind of things, and we now start to stand up against, um, you know, saying things about politics or like gender equality. I mean, look at Cheska being an social activist, just not afraid of like saying her thoughts out there. And I think that's pretty amazing how we are now developing to this modern Filipino where we don't, take what society had imposed us to be. So yeah.
Anyone else who would like to add to that before we
I
wrap
want
things
to
up?
add. I think that the Filipina identity to me is being assertive of who she is and what she wants. Um, I want to acknowledge the fact that Philippines has many languages and culturally diverse regions, and every region has its own definition of what being a woman is. But I think the Filipina identity is really about being assertive, about being self assured, about being secure of who she is and what she wants, and that no matter what she does and that no matter how she does them, she knows it's for her, and it's not about pleasing anyone or affirming to the male gaze. It's about empowering herself. And I believe that if a woman, a Filipino woman, is empowered with herself, I think that that's a good thing. That's a good start to also empower other women around her, and especially the young girls that who would potentially see her as a role model. So I think that's what a Filipina is.
Yeah. Excellent point. Well said. I think it all really boils down to like empowering yourself and also empowering others. So is that all? Did anyone else want to add? No? Okay,
I
well,
think that's good.
yeah, we're good. Okay. So we hope you guys learned a lot about our Philippine history and of course about like Philippine society. We enjoyed, of course, discussing like trying to recall our Filipino lessons in high school and our history lessons. This concludes our podcast. Maybe all right. Maybe so. Courtney chatted something, and maybe some of you guys would be willing to share who are your favorite female icons, and this is more for like a broad general topic for this, but yeah, I think that would be a good way to end our podcast. So anyone would care to share who is your favorite female icon?
Can I go first? Of course, it would be Lenny Robredo because aside from being a Taurus,
Yes.
she's, I mean, girl, like, have you seen how she works? She's been attacked multiple
Yes.
times. She's received a lot of misogynistic comments, but she's still, she she went beyond above her mandate as the vice president of the Philippines, and she continues to help the marginalized and continue to empower women and the youth to be vocal and to do good and to volunteer to different causes and advocacies. And I think that's an icon. You're able to mobilize hundreds of Filipinos to help other Filipinos, no matter their political background, gender, or social status. I think that's really iconic. And she's a living legend for that.
True.
Facts.
Yeah.
No,
Very true.
We second you, Angela.
anyone else? Or are we all like agreeing on Lenny
Yeah.
Robredo?
Let's
Yeah.
settle on that for now.
Yeah. All right. Then that's settled. Lenny Robredo, a woman that we can all look up to. So again, thank you very much for tuning in. We had a very lively discussion. We enjoyed trying to recall our Filipino lessons, our history lessons. Hope you guys learned a lot from this about like Filipino history and Philippine society. Of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Girl Power Talk on all the platforms, and see you on the next one. Bye.